don't get to have it both ways. Go ahead, bro. You go first. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Yes, I'm positive. Let's do it. Give me a minute.
Let me know when you're ready. Let us know when we're ready. You ready? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there are two very important reasons why we are here today, and that we must, as the public, pay close attention to. One is the clear unconstitutional policies and practices of Raleigh Police Department and their dangerous tactics on no-knock and quick-knock warrants, and the failure to monitor their vice unit and the use of confidential informants. The second is the unspeakable trauma that has been caused to the families involved in this lawsuit. Children have been left with horrifying memories as a direct result of RPD's failures, tactics, and cover-ups. The criminalizing and re-traumatizing of innocent people should upset taxpaying citizens of Raleigh. The baseless assumptions of any criminality on part of these innocent victims should have all of us outraged. Our legal team is committed to fighting relentlessly for the families involved in this lawsuit and to prevent other families in North Carolina from experiencing these types of horrors. For too long, we have made excuses for violent police practices and spent millions of the city's money defending these claims that are clear violations of people's constitutional rights. So today we fight for these mothers and these children. We fight against violent and militarized policing and fundamental failures in RPD's policies. Today we take a stand and urge the city to rectify its failures of RPD before more harm is done. And finally, I'd be remiss if I did not use this time to also speak on the tragedies that have befallen our communities of late. So therefore, I spend this time to send prayers of comfort for the family of Tyree Nichols of Memphis, Tennessee, to the family of Daryl Williams right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and for any family in America who has lost a loved one as a result of violent police practices, and anybody who has lost a loved one because of the tactics in which our American policing has become one of the deadliest on the planet. And so therefore, I stand with these grieving families also, and I stand against police brutality in all forms. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to my folks at Emancipate NC.
Good afternoon. My name is Attorney Dawn Blagrove. That's BLAGROVE. I am the Executive Director of Emancipate NC. After we all watched the vicious murder of Tyree Nichols in Memphis, and the murder we have yet to see of Daryl Williams here in Raleigh at the hands of RPD, Emancipate NC released a statement that was entitled, "It's Systemic Racism, Dummy." I'm saying that again today. It's systemic racism. It is systemic racism. It is systemic racism that allows the police all over the country, but specifically here in Raleigh, to create special units and give them so much leeway that they think and behave as though they are above the law. It is systemic racism that allows the police department to insulate those officers who blatantly violate the trust and cause harm to the people they are supposed to protect. It is institutional racism that allows the city of Raleigh to spend money, thousands of dollars, that could be paid directly to these families to make them whole for the trauma that they experienced, instead use that money to pay high-powered attorneys to fight them. And it is also systemic racism that allows attorneys to come into depositions and litigation where they know they are wrong. Let me be clear. There is no question as to whether RPD went into the wrong home. There is no question as to whether or not RPD violated and traumatized two families. That is not a question. That is not even a fact in dispute. Instead of standing on that truth, the city of Raleigh has allowed its attorneys and the high-priced private attorneys that they have paid to fight these people who have no money for their own legal representation, that they know have no money for their own legal representation. Certainly not enough money to fight against some of the largest law firms in Raleigh. That is systemic racism. It is systemic racism for the city of Raleigh to turn a blind eye when its legal counsel uses thinly veiled innuendos about the criminality of Black people, whether or not Black people are really traumatized, and Black children are really traumatized by having police pull guns on them, questioning them about gang activity and whether or not they participate, which has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not the Raleigh Police Department violated the rights of these families and traumatized them beyond belief. The city of Raleigh wraps itself in institutional racism by allowing their attorneys to use race, to use thinly veiled tropes about entire Black communities to litigate something that they know is indefensible. We are calling on the city of Raleigh, and specifically the people who the people of Raleigh elected to represent them, to demand that the power that they have given these folks is not used to further systemic racism, is not used in a way that further marginalizes people who are already deeply marginalized. We are calling on the city of Raleigh to do the right thing, to stop hiding behind the comforts of systemic racism, to break it down and use the power that the people gave them to create a more fair, a more just, and a more equitable city for all of its residents, not just the ones who have the power or the money to hire high-priced attorneys. Emancipate NC is here because we have to be here, because we have to stand in this gap. Because if we were not here, they would make the people of Southeast Raleigh suffer in silence and say they enjoy it. Just like preventative policing. Today is the anniversary of RPD shooting down a man with serious mental health issues, armed with nothing more than a BB gun. And 3 years ago, just like today, the city of Raleigh and the Raleigh Police Department chooses to wrap itself in systemic and institutional racism instead of creating accountability, instead of creating fair systems, instead of listening to the people, and instead of continuing to perpetrate the harm that the police state causes to Black people on a regular basis. We call on the city of Raleigh to say no more. We call on the people of Raleigh to demand that the folks who you have given your power to use it in a way that is fair and is equitable and is just.
Hi, my name is Yolanda Irving,
And I'm Kenya Walton.
and we are the moms that was illegally raided with the no-knock warrant with Abdul. It's been 3 years. We're going on 3 years. We still have no justice. It's been very hard. It's been traumatizing. I know for my family, my 12-year-old son doesn't even want to come outside anymore. He doesn't even want to talk to the police. He doesn't want to do any activities. And it's all because of a no-knock, which was illegally, wrong house. We were innocent. We was two moms that was just minding our business, going on by our day. And they interrupted our lives, and this has been 3 years of interrupting. We have been through a lot. The deposition was very, very racism. They asked questions like, why is our kid's father not in their lives, to why do your son have tattoos, what do they mean, what part of gang is he related to. They went back 26 years in my life. They asked about things that was inappropriate. I don't know about Miss Walton, but it really broke me down. It had me second guessing that I shouldn't even had kids at that time because of the questions that they was asking. My son, they chased me and Miss Walton kids down with guns, and they was innocent. They was outside just minding their business. I really thought that I was gonna lose my son. I don't know about Miss Walton, but I thought mine was leaving this world the way that he was running for his life. They would not release the body cams so y'all can see how terrorizing that was. But that was very terrorizing. And to this day, they still not apologized to me nor Miss Walton about anything. And yeah, we're here for justice. We don't want these no-knock warrants anymore. We don't want anything. We want justice. And that's what we're standing here for with our lawyers. Thank you.
Honestly, I just feel like my son, 19 years old now. I think Zaya was 16. I was robbed of, as well as my son was robbed of, not being able to go to his senior prom. I was robbed of not being able for my son to walk across the stage for his high school because his anxiety is so high. He barely goes out the front door. You'll catch him go out the front door every blue moon. He has rapid weight loss. He can't go to a regular public school. He has to be online schooling. He's limited to, if he get a job, he's not gonna stay long because if it's so many people there, his anxiety is so high. My oldest daughter was 7 months pregnant. They had her come downstairs, and my other son, I walked in the house. I always do a head count, and I just remember one was missing. And he was next door at Yolanda's house. There's no apology. There's no how they're gonna help us, try to help us to help our children to get back to how they used to be. My family, as far as family trips, it's not none because you can't leave out one because he's refusing to go. I mean, it's something I'm not gonna get back and I was robbed of. The deposition was disgusting, not fair, open up rooms that shouldn't have been open, that kids shouldn't have to go through. The only thing that they didn't ask us as far as in that deposition was how much money we had in our bank account. You go back to when them kids were like 2nd and 3rd grade. Nothing in that deposition had anything to do with what went on with the city of Raleigh. When we left the deposition with my 2 youngest boys, they hugged me so tight in that car. Like, what do you tell them? It was more of they comfort me because I felt bad because what they questioned them about. And half of the stuff they didn't even know because those kids stayed in the front yard more than they did in the neighborhood. They was with each other. So it's a whole lot of stuff that was taken from those kids that those kids would never get back, and they have to suffer. And me as a mother, I can't take any of it back because we signed up to be parents. We signed up to do things, and I work. I got to get up early in the morning, but when my son wants to have a conversation at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, at 12 o'clock in the morning, I have to be to work at 4. So sometimes I go get up with no sleep at night at all because he wants to have a conversation. Like everybody has lives have been changed. Those kids' lives has been changed. And nobody's not trying to apologize. Nobody's trying to help us get help for those kids. To the point that we both have to be their therapists. It's stuff I got to educate my kids on that I promised them that they supposed to turn to the police now. I got to tell them what to do, what not to do, keep certain cards in their wallets when police pull up on them. Got to tell them not to run. So it's a lot.
For 1 second, let me level set. These 2 families are victims of a wrongful raid. These 2 families are victims of a wrongful raid. Why are they still being victimized? Why? Right is right and wrong is wrong. And clearly, they had the wrong addresses. So why are they not trying to right this wrong? So to the city of Raleigh, Raleigh city councilors, Raleigh mayor, Raleigh city attorney especially, why are you not righting this wrong? Why are you continuing to victimize this family who was already victimized the first time by Raleigh Police Department? It's not right. It's not right for a city that claimed to be so great but treat its citizens so bad when you get it wrong. This is terrible. This is egregious. There is no reason we should be here even having a press conference to demand that they atone for their wrongs. But yet here we are. So today, we ask that the city of Raleigh, Raleigh city councilors, Raleigh mayor, Raleigh city attorney, right this wrong. Stop being victims. Stop victimizing this family. Thank you.
To conclude, again, I'm attorney Nashad Davis. I, along with Emily Gladden and Abraham Schul, are attorneys from 10 Fulton Walker and Owen, and we, along with Emancipate NC attorneys Elizabeth Simpson and Ian Mance, represent the plaintiffs in this case. We won't take any direct questions to the plaintiffs, but we'll take a few questions if you guys have any.
What kind of time frame can we expect with the mediations with the city regarding the lawsuit?
Our office, we have been collaborating with defense counsel, try to resolve this matter as swiftly as possible. We do have an upcoming mediation in which I can't disclose the contents of that confidential mediation, but we will keep the people of Raleigh updated if the case is resolved in any favor. But right now, that's all I can give you. You want to answer that? How does the city right the wrong?
There are two aspects to that. One is, of course, they could pay these two families and pay them well for the trauma that they've experienced. The lawsuit also seeks some policy changes, and one of those was actually already realized, and that was the banning of no-knock warrants, which was covered in the Indy Week in December. But I think there are other policy changes that Raleigh could enact to try and make sure that in the future, first of all, police are double-checking the address, doing a scout properly to make sure they don't go in the wrong home, and also do other forms of oversight of their confidential informant program, the way that they oversee warrants, the amount of time that they wait before entering a home after announcing themselves, so people have a chance to get themselves together and know what's happening, so they aren't surprised. So these are all some things that Raleigh has the authority to do to try and make sure families aren't impacted in the future. Of course, these families have already been impacted. They need to be compensated for their damages, and that would be, a money payment. But there's also policy changes.
So you said something they could do today. What would you like them to do today? Would you prefer to not even have to go to mediation next week or once more?
Yeah, just briefly, as our folks at Emancipate NC stated earlier, no one wants to be here. Although we're thankful that these families are alive and able to talk about the horrors that they've experienced, no one wants to be here. So the quickest way to resolve this case is for the city of Raleigh to acknowledge their wrongs. For decades, it's been clear that the Supreme Court has already set forth for decades precedent on how to execute knock and announce with regards to policing, and our state appellate court has given a prescription of what that time should look like. But at no point in constitutional history has there been a prescription for or an allowance for no-knock warrants. So I think the city can not only change their policies and continue to change their policies, but they can acknowledge the harm that they've done to these families, and that's the best thing that we're looking for. It's not simply a monetary value, because the traumas that these families have experienced are incalculable. So it's no number that they can come to. It really comes down to how they choose to acknowledge the city's failures.
I want to make sure you all received all the photographs that we sent out in the news release. There's the copy of the warrant that Officer Abdullah handed to Yolanda Irving that shows the red door that they were supposed to go to. We also sent out photos of the tan door where these two families lived, and the red door that was the subject of the raid, just for your visual purposes. And if you don't have that, I can text it to you.
Could you spell your first name?
My first name is Nishad, Nichhad. Last name is Davis, Davis. And I'm an attorney with 10 Fulton Walker and Owen.
I heard this correct, that it was Raleigh Police's selective enforcement team that conducted warrant at the wrong address.
Yeah.
They executed it,
Okay.
but members of Raleigh Police Department and several detectives on RPD's Vice Unit were involved in scoping, investigating, and also the execution of this warrant. So it's City of Raleigh police officers and detectives, and also the SEU unit were responsible for raiding the home with militarized weapons. Is that it?
Anything else?
All right. Thank you for your time. We
Thank you.
appreciate you guys. Thank you.